Hey guys, welcome back to training on VB.net. In this video, I'm going to talk about subroutines and functions and how we use them in Visual Basic to achieve goals. Think of a subroutine as just that. It's a subset of the code. Generally, we find ourselves when we're writing programs, writing the same code over and over and over again. And I see this in a lot of legacy like VB6. And C programs where the program will just rewrite the same code over and over and over and over again, like connection strings and calling connection strings to databases. I've seen that. It drives me absolutely crazy. I've always said that if we're going to write the code more than once, then we're going to create a sub for it, and then we're just going to call that subroutine. So this way here, we only have to write the code once, but we can call it many times. So pretty much in Visual Basic, how we do subs, and we use subs, that'll give you a little bit of a breakdown. For simplicity, let's think of if we're writing data to, say, a database, right? Which is very common these days since there's a lot of database-driven stuff. So I'm just going to write some console.writeLine commands just to give you some idea of how it works and what we're talking about. So console.write, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to query the database, right? We're going to query the DB for a list of users, right? List of users. All right, so then cool, that's one piece that we want. So then when we get the list back, console.write, we're going to then query the database again, query DB for each user's preferences. I'm not saying that this is actually what we're doing, but this is kind of going to give you an idea of why we use subs. And then we're going to update. So console dot, yeah, if I can write dot writeLine, and then we're going to update new preferences, right? New pref, and then we're going to do it, then say in another function, in another sub, we want to do it all over again, right? We want to do all these, and then we want to do them again, and then we're going to do them again. So now, in this program right here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to query the database for the list of users, then go and get each user's preference, and then update a preference table with that user's preference. And then we're going to do it again, but maybe this might be just a different database, right? So then a different database, and then a different database. So, but the point here is that we're doing the same three things over and over and over again, and we're actually using what we call inline coding to do it. It's not the most efficient, because let's say that look, I found an error right here where I put list of together. I have to change it here. And now I have to change it here, and here, and here, right? So what happens is by using inline coding like this and not using the proper techniques, what we're actually doing is we're creating a lot more work for ourselves down the road. Because let's say that this turns into a 4,000 line program. I'm going to have to go through all 4,000 lines to find where each three of these sit. One here, one here, one here, one here, and then change all three of them. When I could just create one sub that's going to do these three for me, and then just call that one sub over and over and over again. So let me show you how to create the sub. So as you can see down here, we have sub hold. We're actually just going to create a sub here. We're going to call sub DB just for fun, and then we're going to go by val, which is by value creates an instance. So this allows us to pass an object into that sub, so I can pass in anything I want. And the by val piece just tells the computer program to make a copy of that object coming in, and let's use the copy while you're inside my sub, so we don't actually damage the data structure, the original data structure. We're now playing around with the copy of it. By ref is another way you can go, and by reference is actually passing the original data structure in. And so if we make changes, at level 0 on that data structure. A little confusing, but I'll explain that sometime in the future. But let's just say for now we're going to use by val, which I always use by val just to be safe. So we're going to say by val db Actually, I'm going to change the function to db stuff, right? For fun, stuff. Because you can't have a function and the same name as a variable within the function. It won't work. Another thing to remember is that if you have a function and you have a global variable and they've got the same name, you're just going to cause a nice little mess. Always make sure your functions are not, the name of your functions or your subs are not used at all in the program other than to reference that sub. So, okay, so anyhow, byval db as string, right? So now we got db stuff and we got db as string. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to take these three right here and we're going to paste them into here, but we're going to do a little tiny bit of work for this one right here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to insert the db variable in the middle. And this is just string concatenation, as we talked about in the last video, where we're able to cut strings in half and then insert the value of whatever that variable is in the middle. So we're going to do that here, and we're going to do that down here. And now we're actually going to be able to say, instead of using these ones right here, all four of these, we can now do this. We can go db stuff, right, and pass in db, right? And then let's do it again and again and again. And then 2, 3, 4. Now, if I find an instance like, oh, wow, look, update NE preference. Yeah, we have a problem here. So we want to update new user preference, right? Now, I just did that for all four of them. Instead of going here, 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 and here, by me updating this one, because we call it over and over again, just passing the database, I only have to update my error on one line, and I fixed them all. So subs are very, very important when we want to use the same code over and over and over again in different areas and not have to try to search and find it. This right here, it's while it works, it's not the right way to do it. As what I'm trying to get at. You can do it this way, but you're going to find yourself wasting a lot of time searching through lines and lines of code for whatever it is that you need that's wrong when it's printed over and over again. By doing it this way, by just creating the sub and calling that sub and passing variables to that sub and letting the sub itself change the variables, you only have to fix it once and then know that no matter where it's called in that program, it's fixed. So that's basically subs. Let's take a look at how they work. So how sub actually works. What we're going to do is we're going to stop after each one. Actually, no, stop after the first, stop after the last. So we're going to run this one and we'll take a look at it. And we'll actually let's do something a little bit better. Hold on. What I'm going to do is actually going to uncomment this. Control CU. And we're going to run through this one, and then we're going to run through this one. So, all right, so we uncommented that. So now we're going to run through the first one. We're going to see that it goes line by line, line by line through all those codes, just to give us, what we want in the console. So then now what we're going to do is this. We're actually going to step into this function. So I'm going to use the step in function or F11 key. And what that'll do is that'll actually step into the function and show me as the function goes. So now we go there. We're going to go to read. We'll actually get through the read. All right. And then, come on. Let me get through here. All right. You want to do it? Okay, good. Yep. And now we're gonna step into this one. We're gonna see that it runs that code again. And then for the next one, step into it, it runs that code again. Next one, step into it, runs that code again, and then on and on we go. So what I just showed you there was that this does print to the screen, and that prints okay. It looks fine. But this does the exact same thing. It's a lot neater and a lot easier to manage as a programmer, and it's literally just reusing the same code over and over again, as opposed to having to write 13 lines. We only wrote 4 plus 4, 8. So it saves us a lot of lines. All right, so that's how to use subs. Now let's talk about how to use functions. Functions are written the same way as subs, except for a function returns something. be it whatever the function returns is whatever you want it to be. So let's just end this sub right here, and then sub. I'm going to call this one subs with a bunch of s's. All right, cool. So now we'll talk about functions. So the best way to think about a function. So I'm going to use a random number generator just to give you an idea of what a function is. So as we talked about with subs, say I want to get a random number, right? Number, and then I want to display it, and I want to get another random number, and display again. You know, rinse and repeat. Say we'll do that 3 times here. Okay. All right. So now inline, I can actually, if I really wanted to, I could do this. I mean, I could easily write it up here, and then generate it. Then do this go like, you know, dim I equals that, and then do it again, and then do this whole thing all over again. I could do this all again, you know, like 3, 4, 5 times or whatever, and do, you know, this right here, and this right here. So, I mean, if this right here is not the best programming ever, this is actually horrible programming, because I can easily, again, thinking about with the same sub mentality that we had down there, I can create a function that'll do this for me, and the function is very easy. So, the way that we create functions is instead of writing sub whatever, we write function, RDN, right? And then in this instance, we're going to actually want to pass in a minimum and a maximum. So do byval min as integer, because that's what it's going to be. And then byval max as, byval max as integer. All right. And we're just going to paste these right here. So now what it's going to do is that when I call this, the generator is going to create a new random. It's going to generate a message called II, and then notice that it's green right here. It's green because all functions have got to return something. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to go return II, and now it's not green anymore. So what happens is in this function, it does all the math or whatever we need to do, and then it returns me the value. So instead of doing this up here, which is pretty gross and nasty, again, same problem we're going to have is when we have to support it, we're going to have to change the code in many different places as opposed to change the code once. So now we're going to change this to dim, say I1 equals, and then RDN, and then we're going to pass in our minimum of 0 and our maximum of 10, right? So now when I call this, I equals whatever RDN produces, whatever RDN returns. So we're going to go through it. We're going to say with the minimum of 0, maximum of 10, a new random, that, you know, get the next number between 0 and 10 random, and then return it. So then that's good. So now I1 becomes 5, 6, 4, whatever it picks. So let's do about 4 of these for fun. So then 2, 3. All right. Now each step of the way, we're going to spit these ones out to the console. So console.writeLine. And then we're going to say, all right, so I1 and I1, right? And, oh boy, keyboard. I was doing that all day today at work. Oh, Lord. Just hitting the wrong buttons and going crazy. All right, 2, 3. And yes, I work as a programmer. I develop software. I develop code all day. That's what I do. It's fun, but it gets crazy. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a read. I'm going to put a stop at the end. So this right here, now what we're going to do is I1 is going to call the random, give me a random number between 0 and 10, print it out. I2 is going to call the same function, 0 and 10 again, print it out. Now we're going to change 3 to be 100 and 4 to be 100, just so we can verify that our numbers are different and that we're not getting the same number, that it's not just regurgitating the same function and sending it back to us. So let's go ahead and just run this one. And we're going to see 0077, which is usually how random number programs work. They're crazy. And then we're going to see 44, 42, 42. And then we're going to see 33, 53, 53, which it's not always perfect. 77, 77. But yeah, notice right there, there you go. 33, 37, 1. That's about the time when the random generators actually get to do its part. I'm actually going to throw something in here for a little bit of fun just to slow it down. I know, my old boss hated this one. I'm actually going to put a 3 millisecond, 300 millisecond sleep in between these, which tells the program just to slow down a little. And now that sleep, what you're going to see is now you see that the numbers are no longer the same. The numbers now actually get a different value, but you do see the pause between it. So by slowing the computer down, it actually, instead of it spitting back the same number, it's actually going to give your random number generator the ability to slow down itself and go. So now we see that instead of getting the same numbers back, we're actually getting a bunch of different numbers, and we're getting good quality, valuable, random numbers back. All right, good. So that's how we use functions and to write to variables. A function does not have to be just random numbers. A function can be one of the other ways I use functions, and I do this an incredible amount. I want to verify like text from text boxes. So I want to say byval tbt as string, right? And then inside of here I'll do a select case on just L case, which, as we talked about in the string one, that's just lowercase l, and that's going to convert L to lowercase. And I'm going to put J, for names, let's say case Tanya, case Tanya, Tanya. I hope she sees this one. Case Tony. And what I'm going to do is I did L. Sorry, I meant to do T. Whoops, T, and then what I do for the functions is I start the variable I want. I start the variable I want to return, and then I just return the variable. So in this case right here, where we're actually going to search through what they're sending us, this function is going to say, okay, well, give me a value, and I'm going to give you back a value based on what you gave me. So we're kind of using the select case. You can use the if, then, else as well, but I'm using select just for time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a blank variable right now, and I usually call it RTN, which is nothing. So return is nothing. And then what I'm going to do is then based on each case, I'm going to change RTN to equal, awesome, right? If I can ever spell it right. And then I'm going to take, then I'm actually going to, just based on different variables. So if somebody passes in Tanya, it says lame. Tanya says cool. And Tony says Italian. No, it says normal. Because Tony's a normal name. I know all Tony's going to be like, I hate you. I'm just kidding. Tony's, I'm kidding. It's funny. Haha. I know I'm not awesome. Anyhow, so what we're going to do is at the end here, we're going to return RTN. And then let's see what it is. So we're going to call it up here a whole bunch of times. So we'll actually just comment out this piece right here, because we don't need that. We're going to keep the console read. So let's go. So there's another way. Instead of wasting a variable in today's society, it doesn't matter because we have enough memory. But back when I first started programming in the early 90s, variables were very, very valuable to us. We didn't want to use too many of them because it started to clog up the computer's memory. And when you're talking about, a 256 character line, that's all you got, and then you crash the program, you got to be very careful with how many variables you use. You don't want to fill up the memory table with just useless variables. So we did a lot of inline programming stuff, tricks like this. So console.write line, and then we're going to call TB, and we're going to pass in J. Why not? So TB, pass in J. Now we're going to see that what that's actually going to do is we can do a little step further. J, and And we're calling the function within the write command. So what it will do is it'll say, okay, write this, and then run this function and write it. So we can either do it this way where we use a variable and then we write it later once the variable's in there. The greatest thing about this is that we have a variable and it holds value down here in the back of the code. This right here is literally saying just run the function and then don't assign it to a variable, print it, and forget it. So what we're going to do is do this a couple more times. And we're going to change this to Tanya, Tanya, and Tony. And because we shifted it to lowercase right here using our L case piece, it doesn't matter whether this is all capitals or lowercases. It's going to lowercase it and then compare it. So remember, that's one of the biggest benefits. One of the biggest things we got to remember when we're doing string comparison is that a string comparison is a literal comparison. Capitals are capitals, lowercases are lowercases. They are different. And in VB and literal comparisons is what happens all the time. So you got to remember yourself as a programmer to lowercase it and then compare it to your lowercases. Or in the case of a password where capitals and lowercases do matter, then just use it as it is. Then compare it as it is, as the thing is. All right, so let's go ahead and run this, and we'll see how it works. Okay, so the first one is going to be console write line J. Sorry, let me just fix this because that's not right. Tanya, Tanya, Tanya. That's actually a joke. My friend Tanya hates being called Tanya, and so I call her Tanya just to get her mad. And then, of course, Tony, because if you get rid of the A, it's Tony. So now we're actually going to walk through this. We're going to step through. So we're going to use F11 to step through, and then F10. We're going to see that return is nothing here, and we're going to L case, and then when I hit F10, it finds that T is J. So what does it return? It returns the word awesome, and then goes back and continues to print. So now when we look at the print, it says J, awesome. So I'm just going to F5 and run through these and get to that console read. So we're going to see Tanya is nothing. Don't know why. Okay, so Tanya's land, Tanya's nothing, and then Tony's normal. So very good, very, very good instance here. Why is Tanya blank? So what we're going to do is we're actually going to step through the code. Let's see if we can. Let's do a little rerun of that. So we're going to go F10 to step over, so it does it. Step over. Now we're going to go into this one, F11 to step in, and we're going to take a look and see why does this not? Why is it printed nothing? Because we have TANYA. Oh, we got TAYNA. So TANYA, and because I'm in debug mode, I can actually change it here, and it will work. Now we move forward, and we get there, and we see that it says cool now. So what you saw was just something that happens all the time. As a programmer, you're never going to get it right the first time. You're going to have to use your F10 and F11s. You step through and you step over. You're going to have to really do that in the debug mode. So get used to it. It's not, oh my God, he stinks or anything like that. No, it's just normal. What happened here is it happens daily. It's exactly what you need to do to become a programmer. You got to understand that it's not going to work, but use your step through and your step ins to make sure to see where the problem is. And a lot of times it's just very, very basic, like you mixed up two letters just as I did, and now I fix those two letters and it runs fine. So that's how we use functions, and that's how we use subs. So a sub is a subset of code, and functions is a function that returns something. So when we use functions, we want to. So when we're thinking about it, we go, okay, well, do I just want this to run it once and not tell me anything back? You know, such as for instance, sometimes you want to do like an insert into a database, and you don't care. So like if we're logging something, like okay, well send it to a log file, and if it doesn't write, who cares? So in that case, I'm going to say make log a sub. And then I'm just going to say, okay, well, call log and pass and all this stuff, and then move on. So I'm like, oh, if it didn't write to the log, I'm not really worried about it. it's like, okay, cool, whatever. Now, if I care about it, I'm going to make log a function. I'm going to say, okay, well, log's a function. Let's pass this stuff to log. Hey, log, did it work right? Did you log the text correctly? And then log's going to pass back, okay, done. Or error, and this is what the code is. So functions pass back values to us. It tells us either in this case random numbers, or text backs to us, or it lets us know status returns. We can do that with the function. With the sub, we literally just run the subset of code and then move on. So if you have any comments or questions, please put them down below in the comment section. Like this one if you really like it. Subscribe if you want. Also, in the notes, in the about, or whatever, the message, the text down below, there's a link there to donate money for Pets for Seniors. Pets for Seniors is our way of trying to give back to memory care residents. We found that if we use the For Real Pets with the seniors, it helps to calm them down when they start to get anxious. If any of you have ever worked in the senior living industry or in a memory care place, you know that once the residents start to go off, it's hard to get them back under control. And by being in the industry and seeing it and talking to the professionals every day, I found that For Real Pets are the way to go. They help to get our residents calm and under control, and helps to keep them happy as well while they don't understand what's going on. So please, in the comments below, let me know what you think about this program and click on that button to donate. And we'll be back with some more. Thank you, guys.